What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist here with
Gersh1.
And we're back at it to answer more questions in another episode of Warhammer 40K, aka For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put a question in front of your question because we get to those questions first. We also have super thanks. If you want to support the channel, you can by hitting us up with the super thanks. You could ask us whatever question you want, and we will guarantee answer it in the next episode. This question comes from Guild of Noobs. Which Space Marine chapter are pro-human and actually try to save/work with humans?
So it's very easy to just name the salamanders. These guys are like the sole protectors of humans. They do anything and everything in their power to make sure that humanity comes out on top. If you look at one of the newest animations for Warhammer TV or Warhammer Plus, whatever you want to call it, there's one where you've got a salamander and he's going to rescue a world with like Necrons attacking it and whatnot, and he's doing all he can to save the humans that they're basically trying to transport to the safe zone.
Yeah, the actual, what would you call it, TV show is pretty cool. I would recommend you guys watch it. There's a moment where the salamander Space Marine, he's like a sole survivor from a crash. He encounters a Death Corps of Krieg trooper, and then he like calls him out and he's like, hey, and then like he charges him, and then obviously the Space Marine is just able to grab him. Oh, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it. He's able to grab him, and he's like, he could easily, I think any normal Space Marine would have just like killed him outright, like right there and then, but he doesn't. He like holds him, he looks at him, and he's like, hey, what's going on? I thought that was kind of goofy, because yes, it just shows how salamanders respect human life. And that's partly because of the Promethean cult. So the salamanders still worship, they have their own kind of religion where the emperor is not necessarily a god, so they're not like the word bearers, but they are worshippers of the emperor in a different way. And they kind of, because of those beliefs, it unifies them with their humanity.
And that's not to say that all other Space Marine chapters just hate humans and kill them indiscriminately. That's not the case, but the salamanders are probably the best known ones that treat humanity fairly.
Another chapter that works with humanity, not so much that they are as affectionate towards humans as the salamanders, but the Dark Angels, I believe, had basically a network of spies because they were trying to find the Fallen, they're called, or the Lost. The Dark Angels, the ones that...
The Fallen.
The Fallen, yeah. So there's a network of spies that exists within the entire Imperium, and they work with the Dark Angels to find the Fallen, so they utilize humanity in that way. The Dark Angels, and specifically what is that core group?
The Inner Circle?
Yeah, the Inner Circle use humans and work with them so they have respect to them, or for them, or whatever.
Yeah. One instances whenever people ask me, oh, do Space Marines care about humans, is in the Horus Heresy. I believe it's the second book where Horus has been wounded and he's being taken up into his flagship, and like he's unresponsive. They think he's gonna die, and as he's coming off of the ship into the actual flagship, they're literally just... There's a bunch of like humans that work on the ship just going to see what's going on, and there's a crowd of them. And these Space Marines act as if humans are not there. They trample them. It's basically a stampede. They get flattened, stomped to death. Like they don't even care. Like their Primarch is dying, and they're just like running through them like nothing.
Yeah, the key there is to really showcase how humans... or not so much that Space Marines hate humans, but they just don't really register them as like important, I guess, to their goal. Yeah.
But then on the flip side, you look at the main character of the book, I guess you could say, Loken, and he values human lives. He'll have conversations with them, read philosophy, and try to expand the overall sense of like what it means to be human, good and evil, that type of stuff, right and wrong, morality of humans. And it's really interesting to see like that type of mindset be so black and white amongst Space Marines.
And it's interesting because even in the Magnus book, he's going through his burned libraries on Tisca or whatever, and he's remembering a lot of the poems and stuff. These poems and these works of art are created by humans, and yet a Primarch, basically a demigod, has him in his library, and he's like appreciative of this basic human, what'd you say, like philosophy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me think of us, though. Especially like war gamers, I feel that we have that type of personality where, sure, we idealize or idolize certain like members of our culture. So, for example, like Nisha. What's the dude who wrote the Prince? Machiavelli. Those kinds of things that really like call to us. And yet, as individuals, I don't have any type of. I don't really want to get to know people. Like I like people I feel are kind of dumb sometimes, and yet there's individuals that I like gravitate towards. So it's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, like, oh, look at the great works of Shakespeare and stuff like that.
Yeah, but like regular Joe Schmo or whatever, it's like, I don't really care about him, or I don't care to know about your past or future or whatever, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because like these people were probably like, regular Joe Schmo back in their time. Like they didn't really see them as that, and it's usually most often after the death where these works of art actually get praised.
And that's why maybe we as war gamers need to become a little bit more social, because we don't know. We could be talking to the next Shakespeare.
That's true.
Your friend could be secretly writing a book that's going to be amazing. Cough, cough, docile creature. Cough, cough. You have a second part to your question. Do Space Marines forget they were once humans, leading them to feel superior and hate humans versus just ultra-engineered humans? So a Space Marine does technically kill its former self during the indoctrination process, or basically its route to become a Space Marine. You get
psycho indoctrination.
There you go.
Yeah.
So your mind is kind of like mush. So if you had a family before, that family doesn't really mean much to you if you even remember them.
Now there are a little bit of outliers, such as like Ultramar, the Salamanders, stuff like that, where the family unit plays a big role. Like Gilliman, he had a mom and a dad. A lot of the Primarchs didn't have that, like Kurz, etc. Or sometimes you'll have like Mortarion, where you have a dad that's just an asshole to you.
Yeah.
So it's like this whole family dynamic, this whole human culture, civilization of putting parents and children in that type of family, relationship doesn't apply. So when you do become a Space Marine, you're not there to have a family. You're not there to build relationships. You're a weapon. You're a tool for the Imperium to get the Emperor's goals done.
Yeah, and there's exceptions, like you said, because there are Ultramarine chapters or successor chapters that still have family ties, and certain families specifically send their sons to become Space Marines. But, like a Space Marine is just a soldier.
Right. One of the cool instances is in the Ferrus Manus novel, Gorgon of Medusa. You have Arcaduana, which is like a very strong, well-competent Emperor's Children Space Marine that even the Primarchs praise. He is the son of a techno-barbarian warlord who fought literally against the Emperor and lost. And as the Emperor showing him a bit of respect and gratitude, he's like, I'm going to elevate your firstborn into one of my soldiers. Yeah. And then apparently this guy's a badass.
And it's kind of cool because you can't neglect that history if you're Arcaduana. I come from a line of warriors.
Right.
Techno-barbarian lord was my dad kind of thing. Again, the majority of Space Marines don't necessarily intentionally forget their past, but it has to be done because at the end of the day, they're just warriors.
Right.
Good stories, though, I think. It creates a good kind of dynamic. Next question.
This one is by Drew Baker, or Dewey Baker. Where did Vastor get the skin that he wears? Whose skin did he deem worthy to wear as his face? So this is not anybody in particular's skin, and Vastor isn't a single, how do I put it, being of flesh at all time. So the body of Vastor that you see is not the same every time you see him. He is 100% demon. So there is no material body for him. There is no body that he always becomes because he's just an entity in the warp. When he gets summoned into real space, you have to do a ritual of sacrificing flesh and whatnot, and that flesh that is sacrificed becomes his body.
We talked about this in a previous episode of like how are demons summoned. You summon a demon, or Vashdor would be summoned basically by some type of sacrifice, a human sacrifice, and then now that biological thing that exists in real space becomes a conduit, or conduit to the avatar.
That's the best way of calling it. Yeah.
And then once Vashdor is there, you obviously have to bind him to that spirit, and usually it's just like, well, give him a sacrifice worth turning into this cool looking, what is he, like a robot / demon thing. So
yeah, he's not like the demon Primarchs. He's not like a demon. Well, I mean, he's more demon host than anything, but he's his own special thing. He's a demon.
Yeah.
Not like, I guess like Be'lakor, I guess you could. No, because Be'lakor was elevated to become that. So Be'lakor was a mortal who was given gifts by all 4 Chaos Gods. Yeah. So that's the opposite of what Vashdor is.
Emphasis on the mortal, because he wasn't human. Humanity venerated him even in the past, but like he wasn't necessarily human, unless that changes in the future.
Right, because they say he's old as like dirt.
Humanity, right?
Older than humanity, because he goes to other planets and there are civilizations praising him and stuff like that. So
he's a really cool concept of a character. Last question by All the Way to Z. Not really a question, but you write, the woke argument that has recently started in the comments is not fun and enjoyable. The people pushing it are bad faith actors and will destroy your channel like they have destroyed other franchises. Again, people tune in for fun and enjoyment, not a toxic ideology that destroys all it touches. That will include your channel. Peace. Thank you. I think you're right. I think that there is a loud minority that's just trying to be destructive. So whenever we have these conversations on like female space marines, inclusion in 40K, all that kind of stuff, it is just kind of in bad faith. At the end of the day, I think you guys are just tuning in to hear some cool ass stories, like Vashdor and all that kind of stuff. So we'll stick to it. I like that concept.
Yeah, because like that's the cool thing about 40K. There's such a huge sandboxy universe to explore that you could just go from concept to concept and like just ignore the stuff you don't really want to see.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if you are listening to us, we're not going to change your ideology. We're not.
Yeah.
Like nothing you're going to ever hear online is going to change your perspective on something that you're set on. But I can change who you think the best chaos god is, because that changes for me all the time. I'm actually really getting into Nurgle now. Tzeentch was my favorite chaos god, and now Nurgle, specifically because of how fucking badass the Terminator,
The Blight Lords.
Yeah. I kind of wanna get into Nurgle lore. But yeah, those are the questions.
Thanks for sending those questions our ways, guys. Again, if you want more questions answered or we didn't get to your question, comment. Super Thanks is a way to get your guaranteed question answered. And as always, it's been the Sound Alchemist here with
Gershwan.
And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Oh, what is this? This is my